Hello everyone, and let's talk about should you play a Telekinetic Sage in 3.1.2. We're going to start this series again, and we are going to look at, aptly, the Telekinetic Sage in 3.1.2. Should we play it? Is it nerfed into the ground? Is it totally unplayable? Is it, oh my god, we can't kill anything? So bad. If you read the forums, you would think so. You would think you could never ever kill anything with this class. If you read some of the forums, it's all doom and gloom. We're here to be positive. We're going to talk about the positives of a Telekinetic Sage. We're also going to cover the negatives. Now, we'll cover the biggest change, which was Force Quake got nerfed. Or got changed, should we say. It got changed. Basically, it now is half of the channel time. It's down to 3 seconds from 6. It costs half the amount of force, and it does a lot less damage, of course, but it is still spammable, so it's still by far the best AoE spec in the game. It still is. I mean, it has been reduced slightly, but it's still better. Probably the Shadow a little bit close to it. Shadows are pretty close with it. Commandos, they're okay, but I would say still one of the top AoE specs in the game for AoE. We can still pull aggro on those pirates, those drunken pirates, if we want, before Bulow. I did that in Ravagers. Again, if we fire off our Telekinetic Wave and fire off our Quake, we can still get aggro from tanks, and we can still annoy tanks, really, and annoy healers with that. They didn't put a cooldown on it. A lot of people thought they would put a cooldown on Force Quake, which would have really nerfed their AoE, so it could have been worse in that respect. But let's talk about the positive side, because there is still positivity to Telekinetic Sage. We're not here to be all negative and doomsayer and say, oh my god, this class is broken, everybody should go healers. Roll a healer. The healers are awesome, by the way. We'll do that next in the next video. But yeah, this we're going to talk about positivity now. And our biggest asset is our mobility. As a Telekinetic Sage, we're still that mobile. Our mobility didn't get a nerf. Most of the things we can use on the move or become instant cast. We can make most of our things, except Mind Crush. Mind Crush we have to stand still to channel, but again we can reduce its channel time. So we're not really standing still that much. We're more mobile than the Gunslingers, and we're about as mobile as a Gunnery Commando. I'd probably say the Gunnery Commando probably just slightly edges it out, because they do have some nice mobility, but I think it's close between us two for mobility as range DPS. We're certainly up there as one of the most mobile range DPS specs in the game. We've got a lot of things like our, I can't remember what the ability's called. Well, I can't even actually remember what it's called. The, what is it? Again, the thing that gives you Thrill of the Hunt I was thinking of, but that's the mercenary one. I can't actually remember. Force Mobility, that's it. Force Mobility, that's the one that lets us channel our turbulence while we're moving. Huge advantage. It's a huge advantage. It's still there. Our turbulence still hits like it used to. Still, our big hitter is still there, our #1 hitter. The big changes: Telekinetic Burst and Telekinetic Burst and Telekinetic Gust are the main changes to it, and also our Fort Lightning and Fort Darkness, or I can't remember what they're called on the Sage, to be honest with you. Basically, it was our chance to proc a second attack with Telekinetic Wave. What else? Mind Crush as well. Basically, they all got nerfed by 5%. Our chance to proc a second hit got nerfed quite a bit. That's the biggest change really to our single target, and it is annoying. It is a 25% chance instead of 30, so it's gone from 1 in every 3 to now 1 in every 4. That is gonna make a difference. It is gonna make quite a big difference. However, again, it's not it could have been worse. Things could have been a lot worse for us, is what we say. Did they go too far with the nerfs? If you read the forums, yes, but I think they could have put a cooldown on Quake. Quake needed to be nerfed, okay? Force Quake needed to go. It needed to change, because new players, again, were just spamming it. It became the newbie spammy spec, the noob spec. It became the Marauders of 3.0. I've said that in a previous video, but again, that's what it had become. But again, are they still viable for raiding? Yes. They're probably still that viability. Mobility is king in 3.0. Mobility, they're more mobile than Gunslingers, so they have that advantage. The Gunslingers might do more damage now, Don't know, haven't checked the figures, but I'd imagine the gunslingers, they're still pretty reasonable in terms of their damage. The big disadvantage to gunslingers is the mobility. That's the biggest disadvantage, because to channel things like, what's it called again? Hemorrhaging, not hemorrhaging, but wounding shots, I always get mixed up. We'll refer to them as sniper, cull, and series of shots. We'll just refer to things by sniper. It is confusing in SWTOR because you get two different factions and two different things, two different names for the same ability. So cull and series of shots, there we go. Series of shots need to be, you need to stand still. There's no movement for them. If you could move and channel them, my god, we would be OP as hell, and it would be fun to do that as a sniper, but it wouldn't fit the sniper playstyle to hit things on the move, really, to be honest. You're a sniper, you should be standing still. Well, you should be a turret class, basically, as a sniper. You should be standing still, you should be hitting things at range. Again, I agree with that. To be honest, I agree with that philosophy as a sniper. We don't want snipers running around with their sniper rifles. Bad enough we've got suppressing fire, that's bad enough. Machine gun firing a sniper rifle, that doesn't make any sense. But again, the Sage still has the edge on mobility. And I would say, as long as they're not nerfing the mobility, they're still good from a gameplay standpoint. Yeah, we're pumping out less numbers, but, you know, it has to be done in terms of balance. I don't think it was PvP. I don't think it was a PvP decision, to be honest with you, because Quake, you could easily interrupt Quake in PvP. Force Quake was easy to interrupt. Some people say they were just spamming it on nodes. To be honest with you, that's not the worst thing you could spam on a node. There is things like Orbital Strike. You know, that one you can fire and forget Orbital Strike. It's not that bad with that in PvP. So again, you just find where the Sage or the Sorcerer is, interrupt, stun them, kill them. You know, get a stealth class, put a stealth class on them. Get a stealth class to find that Sage and kill them. Not that hard to kill as a stealth class. If you take them by surprise, hit them from behind, as, you know, a scrapper scoundrel. I was going to say a sharpshooter scoundrel there. Scrapper scoundrel, again, you can just get them killed that way. Stun lock them, kill them. Not that difficult, to be honest with you. But again, should we roll this class? Should you play as class? I think you still should. I still think it's the better of the two, certainly. It's still ahead of balance, although it has been nerfed. You do get, again, big thing in 3.0, mobility. Mobility is everything in 3.0, and we still have that mobility. We still have that ability. We also still have the ability to soak damage quite nicely with our self-heal. We are still the best off-spec self-healer. So you can ask a Sage to soak a bit of damage. You've got your Force Armor as well. If there's no Sage healer in the group, you can put that on the tank. So you've still got that support role, that support DPS role that we can carry out. Again, we can help the tanks take less damage. Again, if your two healers are a Scoundrel and a Commando, and you've got a Sage DPS, I would always try and bubble the tanks as well, because it is going to help out. It's going to help out getting that killed. You wouldn't just want to be someone who just does DPS. So you can be in that support DPS role if you're not doing as much DPS. If you're worried about your place in a raid, always remind them of that. Always remind them, again, if you have another Sage healer though, it's maybe not going to work out. You're just going to piss them off if you do that. If you bubble a tank, that'll piss off that Sage healer. Really, I hate when Sages do that. They bubble everyone in the group, and it's like, let me bubble them, because I know I have the 10% damage reduction, or 10% more damage absorption from mine. I don't know if they've got it. I don't know if they're taking it, to be honest with you. So I like to do it as a Sage healer. But again, it is something that you can do, something you can consider, certainly, in those fights where, you know, the tanks are taking heavy damage and the healers are struggling. Certainly Sword Squadron HM, if you don't have a Sage healer, if you've got two Commandos, certainly most guilds, a lot of guilds run with two Commandos because of the tank healing. Certainly is the most optimal. If you get a Sage DPS, you know, you can fire out those absorb shields and again help out, mitigate some damage. It's quite nice actually, and you're pretty good on the grenade as well. Really huge grenade. Whoever gets it, you can again bubble them as well. Stop some damage, prevent some damage getting done. So it's not all about DPS. Everyone wants to just look at the DPS. People just put their heads down and focus on the damage numbers. And again, yeah, we've been nerfed slightly, but should we still take a Telekinetic Sage to a raid? Absolutely, absolutely. We need them. We need certain abilities that they have. The mobility, the movement speed, the mitigation that they can bring to tanks. They are all the positive sides. Yes, their damage numbers have gone down. I don't think they're not viable. We're not in a stage where we're going to abandon them. They're not as bad as, say, Sentinels who just die too easily. They're not a burden to a raid group, to be honest with you. They're not going to be like that. They still have a lot of utility. They still have a lot of things going for them. So it's not all doom and gloom. People say they killed the Sage in 3.1.2, but I'd say no. They have changed it. They have made us a bit less of a DPS spec, a bit of a nerf to our burst damage. Although our burst damage it's not a huge nerf to our burst, because I'm calling them multi-strike. I'll call those multi-strikes. We use a WoW term there. We'll call them multi-strikes. Those multi-strikes, we hugely rely on them. They only did 25% of the original damage. I mean, obviously they were nice to get. 1 in every 3. 30% chance. The average is 1 in every 3 attacks to get that multi-strike. But again, it's going to be 1 in every 4. So it is a nerf. But they did need something. Something needed to be done with Quake. I like the Quake changes, I have to say. It's something we had to change that, because we don't want people just spamming one ability. Because they'll get to end game and that's all they'll use. And again, people were cheesing the damage meters. People were just cheesing them. And it's your own fault. It's your own fault the thing got nerfed. I mean, don't cheese the damage meters, because BioWare have access to most of that data. They have access. They know, they know averages, which class is doing the most damage on certain fights. And if they see a spike in a class doing a certain damage, then they'll look into it. They'll look at what ability is causing that damage spike. What's causing them to be so far ahead of the rest. And of course they're going to nerf it. It's balance. I mean, yeah, they can't balance the game very well. That is true. But again, things need to change when they see something that obvious. And it was obvious if you looked at fights with Sages and you just you could see it for yourself. You know, they were just trying to, throw out their Force Quake for the pirates as well. When you don't attack the pirates, you use the barrel and you use the mass barrage to get rid of the drunken pirates in that fight. When they were doing things like that in story mode, it was annoying, just so they could cheese the damage meters, and it presented a very false kind of data as well, and you want to get rid of that when you're tuning a fight. You don't want to see that massive damage spike. So what comes when Nightmare comes around? What are they going to do? They're going to tune that. They're going to tune Nightmare Bulow to the Sage damage output, or are they going to nerf the Sages before they tune the fight before they tune Bulow Nightmare, should we say? I mean, again, Nightmare's not out yet, but I'd imagine that's in the thought process of how they're tuning Nightmare, because I imagine they're going to be looking at that. Certainly Nightmare will be coming, I imagine. It'll be coming soon. It usually comes about 3 or 4 months after release. It is that period now. It won't come in 3.2. Probably 3.3 will be Nightmare, I imagine. Nightmare, they'll re-release the same content in a harder difficulty and call it content. That's a terrible thing. I hate that. I wish they'd just make Nightmare available from the beginning, to be honest with you. But again, the Sage, still a good class. Nerfed a bit. Now, the footage that you're looking at for this video is pre 3.1.2, 3.1.1, where we were awesome. So that's something to point out. And again, thank you for joining me. Should you roll a Sage in 3.1.2? Yes. Keep rolling the Sage. They're still a good class. They're a good healer. We'll talk about the healer in the next video. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.